Morning team. Glad to see everybody on this morning. Welcome to Friday Team Call. Let's get this launched here. Get started with some leaderboards. Hope everybody's having a good week. Top 10 for the week, and I realize we're still kind of coming off holiday slump here a little bit. Looks like based on the numbers, but summertime. I know a lot of people got a lot of things going, but let's go through what we got so far for the week. Number 10, Mr. Lionel Anderson, 2 applications, $817 direct to John Paul Vetter. Derek McPherson, 1 application, $834 direct to John Paul. Dave Moan, 1 application, $1,150 direct to Stella Dinwiddie. Andy McKinley, 2 applications, $1,310 direct to myself. Terry Myers, 6 applications, $2,259 direct to Stella Dinwiddie. Donna Bates, 2 applications, $2,452 direct to Spencer Cushion. Eric Sullivan, 7 applications, $3,124 direct to John Paul Vetter. Stella Dinwiddie, number 3 spot, 5 applications, $3,833 direct to myself. Number 2 with app count lead, 9 applications, Jenny Gray. Congratulations on that app count, 9 applications, $8,271 direct to John Paul. The number 1, however, we have a new number 1 for the week. Miss Natalie Hermit, 4 applications, $10,208 direct to Eric Sullivan, and Natalie joins the $10,000 club. That's awesome. Congratulations. So that's really cool to see. Let's take a look at the monthly leaderboards, month to date, and I realize let's see, I guess we're about a couple weeks in now. But so far, month to date, number 10, Donna Bates, 2 applications, $2,452. Ashley Prom, 4 applications, $2,458. Eric Sullivan, 7 applications, $3,124. Terry Myers, 10 applications, $4,631. Stacy Love, 2 applications, $4,984. Lionel Anderson, 5 applications, $5,587. Dave Moan, 3 applications, $5,733. Top 3 for the month so far. And again, we've got a lot of month to go. So to date, number 3, Stella Dinwiddie, 7 applications, $6,856. Number 2, Natalie Hermit, 4 applications, $10,203. And so far, number 1, Miss Jenny Gray, also leading on app count, 14 applications, $13,806 to due date. And again, a lot of month to go there, but we kind of like to give those running totals so everybody can kind of see where they're at. Guys, do keep in mind and see, the first couple of weeks we're off on numbers, and I get it. It's summertime, a lot of traveling, a lot of vacation. That's the beautiful thing about our business. The flexibility to be able to have time with family, have time with friends, do things like that. One of the things, having been around this business for several years now, though, let me caution you, make sure that you are very disciplined in how you plan that time off. It's absolutely okay to take a day, a few days, take a week off, take 2 weeks off, but you're in business for yourself. And I can guarantee you, if you've never been in business for yourself, one of the biggest traps that we see is people who take time off and don't plan for taking that time off. You've got to front load, back load, or both your business. Make sure that you're catching up somewhere in your process. And, one of the things I wanted to share with you, an idea for people that want to, kids are home, you want to take a little more time, with the family, here's an idea. If you're used to working 5 days a week, work 4 days a week. Work 4 days a week, have 3-day weekends every week through the summer, and then just, make sure that you're putting an honest 4 full days in. Don't cheat yourself on your time, but plan it out. Make sure that that you're planning that time off. Take advantage of the flexibility of this business, but don't take so much advantage that you wind up putting yourself out of business. So, just a little word of caution there, guys. So, but let's enjoy what this business has to offer. Quick announcement. So let's talk briefly about conference. Guys, you need to get your tickets bought today. And the reason being is we are sold out of conference. And that's, and I mean it literally. I tried to go in and get some more ticket packs. So the only way you can get tickets right now is if you buy it off somebody's owner's pack. There are no more tickets available. I can't, I'm an agency owner, you know, a regional agency director, and I can't get more tickets. Nobody can get more tickets. So you need to hit the done button, get your ticket today, because once they're sold out, one of the things that we're up against is because of the venues, and you know, there's still some capacity limitations and things that are going on, you know, but the bottom line is we only have so many that we can sell. So if you miss out and you don't get signed up, you're not going. And if you're not going, you're putting yourself at a huge disadvantage. In fact, if you're making the decision not to go, I would encourage you just to go ahead and have a discussion with your upline about, you know, ceasing business and save yourself the time and the struggle and the effort, because if you don't go to conference, guys, you won't make it here. I'm just, you know, that's not hyperbole, and this is not a sales pitch on tickets. I'm just telling you, we have a finite number, and I'm not joking here. So get with your mentor, get with your upline. We have several owners packs within the agency here. So myself, Stella, John Paul, I know several others have them. However, again, each pack is only 10 tickets, and a lot of those already have names assigned to them. So we don't even have full 10 packs. So just be forewarned, hit the done button, get your name on the roster, because you won't have an opportunity once those are gone. Let's pause briefly here for any announcements from our agency owners. Stella, John Paul, anything that you guys need to address or want to address with your teams?
John Paul, do you want to go first since I'm hosting?
Sure. No worries. Awesome. So first and foremost, I'm just glad to finally have this house closed on. Blessed to even be in my new office here. I got internet connection finally yesterday. So doing my first Zoom meeting from the new house. It seems to be working fine. Internet connectivity, I was worried about how far out it was, if the internet speed was going to cause me any issues, but doesn't appear to be that case. So, but yeah, and you know, talking about, you know, just kind of distractions and time off and things like that Chris mentioned, you know, it's go time for me now, because I need to get back in the mix myself on personal production for the rest of the month, because I've had so many distractions with the closing of the house and trying to move and not having internet when I was out here and such. So now my game plan is very precise and very specific, you know, over the next couple of weeks for sure. To the other point, just to kind of, again, recognize some of the other folks that are really on the team, that are on my team, that are stepping up, that I'm just so proud of. Obviously, with Jenny Gray, I mean, you know, rocking and rolling again, ma'am. And then Natalia Hermit just busted it out with a $10,000+ week. Looks like you got one of those crystal cubes coming to you too, ma'am, from the Pogue agency. Those are pretty cool. The week's not over, right? So I think she was actually, when I saw the leaderboards for the Pogue agency yesterday, she was number 2 in the entire Pogue hierarchy, only behind Lee Jedlika for the week, and only by a couple $100, right? So outstanding job there, Natalie. And she's on Eric's team. Just so much momentum from that group, and where Eric's positioning himself to start to make a run for AO here over the next few months, and then just so many other people. I mean, I hate to start to name individuals because you can't get to them all, but just everybody in my organization, just so proud of all of you and the momentum we've got, and specifically my future AO's leadership team that I've got. That group of individuals is really stepping up and focused on conference team building and recruiting to that conference and mentoring their folks in their organization, making sure that they're on track with their lead purchases and helping mentor them in their appointment setting and closing customer deals. And and just really building that momentum for their own organizations, which causes all of us to grow. So grateful for everybody in the team, and blessed, so I would just say, buckle up. The month is half over, but you still got the other half, right? So, as some of you have seen, individuals in this team, myself included, have come in and made an entire month's worth of production in a week. So don't worry about where you're at right now. Focus on what you're going to do today to change the rest of this next week and the following week, and go in there like it's game time. It's all about your focus and intentionality and what you can do with that to determine where you end up. It's not where you're at today. Some of you are in a good spot, got good pace. Some of you are behind where you want to be. It's okay. Dig in and make it what you want it to be before the month is over. And that's really all that I've got that I wanted to add, Chris. Appreciate everybody, and let's make finish up the month. I will say on the conference tickets, the last thing I just reminded myself is I've already got about 15 people, and I bought 5 owners packs and for my team and organization, because I was afraid, and we talked about this in my leadership meeting with my future AOs about us maybe running out of tickets, right? And so that's why I got 5 owners packs. And I've already got 15 of those that folks have already PayPal'd for their tickets. Those are earmarked for you. Your names are on those. I will get to allocating those to you shortly, but I've got a list that I've got that I'm tracking, and those are yours. So the point is, don't wait. You can't wait till August, and decide if you want to, spend $100 for your ticket. You got to get it now, or there won't be any more tickets. And they're not joking about the capacity, and the tickets are all gone. We had a special call yesterday with my days were running together. It was either yesterday or day before yesterday with Marshall Wayland and the 120s. I think it was yesterday, but it was about that very point, is that it's packed. We're out of tickets. There's no more capacity. They can't make the hotel bigger, right? So it's a good thing in one regard, but the other thing is you got to get in quick, right? So and they are opening up more room blocks as it relates to the hotel. There were conversations around that. Every time they've opened up, they've maxed out, and they've gone back and opened up more and maxed out. So they're working on that, and we will let you all know as soon as we get the green light that they've expanded that even further. So I think that's all that I had, Chris. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, John Paul. And you brought up a couple things I forgot to mention. Yeah, hotel, if you haven't got your room booked and you tried to book it and you saw it was sold out, just hang tight. We're working on more rooms. However, when you see those room blocks open, again, do not sit around thinking that you got time to get, you'll get back to it later, because later you probably won't. And at some point, again, it's a finite number. They're going to open up more blocks, but there's only so many times they can do that. So we will run out. And the rooms that they've got that on a discount. It's a group rate. So again, don't get yourself in a situation where August you're trying to book a room and you're paying 3 times what you thought you were going to pay. And that's another factor now that you're trying to navigate around from an expense standpoint. So again, guys, this is not pitching tickets. This is not a sales pitch. This is not hyperbole. When we tell you get it done, hit the done button, get signed up. This is just a friendly warning. If you don't get it done here, I would say within the month of June for sure, and sooner the better. There's a good chance you may not be able to go, and that's going to be a hill that is going to be hard to climb. As far as being successful in this business and making it to the next conference event, which won't be until guys help me out, February. I should have the dates in front of me.
I think it's January, February in Denver.
Yeah, somewhere after the first of the year. So that odds are not good, as in less than 10% that the people who don't make conference in August will be able to survive until that next conference. Again, it just comes down to the training. If you're brand new, we'll just kind of quickly say, conference is a live event. It's all about growth, development, training, deep dive in the system. I guarantee you, after 2 days, you will walk out. You will feel like your head's swimming, but in a good way, because you just got so much packed in such a short period of time. And unlike our digital conference that we had here 3 or 4 months ago, which was a great event, and it was definitely needed. Live is so much different just because, again, the training you get, the ability to interact, ask questions, walk up to some of the top performers in the company and ask them, just ask them about their business, how they got started, how they grow, how they improve, what kind of development they work on, all those things. So, all right, guys, already 15 minutes in the call, so I don't want to take any more time for our host with the most, Miss Stella Dinwiddie, agency owner with a awesome team. And I'm excited what Stella has to share with us today. Stella, it is your call.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. As always, I'm super grateful, thankful to be here with all of you great people, this opportunity. My life has changed dramatically since I joined this team, this company, and opened up my own business just barely about 2 years ago. And also, I'm so happy that you guys mentioned about the conference tickets, because I want to give a shout out to Bob Pelletroni and Terry Myers, on my team. They also purchased their own owner's pack as well as I did. So they've got their own list of people, warm market and cold market, that will be purchasing tickets from them. But as you had mentioned, Chris, as well as you and John Paul having, purchase owners packs, get on that right away. I've already got, I'm so excited because yesterday Greg Ace was like, I've got my airline ticket, Stella, and had questions about it. I got Blythe coming, great new person on our team, and Heidi, Chase and Liz, I don't see him on, but they just got married this last Sunday. And they are both recently newly licensed, and they're coming. I'm just so excited about, Ashley Prom, a lot of people. So it's going to be great to meet all of you in person. That is going to be so much fun. Like, if any of you've seen all those videos that come out, sorry, I just want to talk about this because my team knows, that I will send to them separately, some clips, and I think I shared one on Crew recently, but they are just so exciting. Like, it makes me want to cry. It's nothing like I've ever experienced. It's not just like some kind of sales, conference. It's amazing. It's life-changing. And I just wanted to say that. And then also, I wanted to give a shout out to Heather Goidinger, a new agent on our team. Last night, she wrote an IUL with a $4,800 APV. So congratulations to you, Heather. I don't see you on here yet, so I don't know if you figured that out. And that's okay. Dave Moan, I'm so proud of you, Dave. During our conversations, you've been on a great rolling streak. I mean, you literally wrote over 4,000 in one day last week. And I was dying to make mention of it, but we had the call where we didn't have time for the rest of us to chime in. But that's okay, because that we're so proud of you, Dave. And just so many people. Like you said, John Paul. And by the way, I like your new background. It's nice colors. Looks really good on you. So I won't talk too much about other things, but it is such an exciting time. And let me tell you, okay, the only reason my numbers are low, and John Paul, he's, can attest to this for himself too, is our activity hasn't been there. Honestly, I haven't dialed much because I've been so busy with so many other things. But you better believe I'm getting on the phone. I'm so excited. Like, I can't wait to get on the phones. I've just been pulled in different directions with recruiting. My son's graduating. He's got this IB awards, and I'm so proud of him, which he's not on here, but that's okay. My point here is people are out there waiting to be helped. Like, I don't care if it's summer, sorry, Chris, fall, winter, spring, people are out there waiting to be helped. It's up to us. And I always think about this awesome thing that Jim Rohn said, this little story, and some of you might have heard me say it, but he said, there's the salesman that looks out the window and says, oh my gosh, it's raining, storming, I'm not going out there. It's bad, And then you have the other salesman in the other house that says, wow, it's really stormy, raining out there. Everybody must be home. I'm going out there today. So it all depends on how you look at it with your mindset. That's really, 80% of the game here. So enough about all of that. Again, just super grateful, thankful to be here. We get to host these calls to help many of you new people. And also, they're great refreshers for those of us that have been doing this a long time. I still listen to SoundCloud. I go back almost nightly or in the morning. I do my self-development. Part of it sometimes is going back and refreshing my brain so that I can be a better service to my families. And with that being said, when Chris asked me, what do you want to talk about? I said, you know what? I get a lot of questions from people, especially new people that, say, hey, Stella, do you, what do you say? How do you close your appointments? And, what do you say? And do you use the telesales presentation? And do you do this? Do you do that? And so I really want to cover that piece of it, because honestly, I will tell you what I tell everyone else. It's not a close. What we do with these families, we're not out there closing. It's as Tom Chisholm says it well. He says, it's a conversation with these people on a very deep level, and it's about asking quality questions, and more importantly, listening. Mm-hmm. And we're going to cover through a lot of this, so I'm going to do my best to stay on point here. We talked about role and presentation as being the topic here today. Well, that's really super important because, before you help a family, so let's start from the beginning. You make an appointment, you talk to them. One of the most important things you're going to ask them on the phone before you actually sit with them to help them. Whether it's on Zoom or on the phone. For me, I am 100% virtual. I have been ever since COVID. I know some people still go out in homes. That's great. No problem. But however it is that you talk to people, you are going to ask them when you first talk to them, why, what can I do for you? How can I help you? What do you want this insurance coverage to do for you? Are you looking to just cover you? Or both of you? So you want to, get their why out. That's super important in making that phone appointment, right? And then from there, before you help a family, and go through your presentation, you want to have a role and purpose so you can help them. Well, what does role and purpose mean? When I first started, I really didn't have a clue. It's all about like, why am I here to help you? Like, why do I care so much to help you? What's in it for your family? So I want to talk about our role and purpose because it's so key to have your role and purpose in place. This is really about your why. In the beginning, so you can connect and let them know why it's important to you to help them. Why you've seen the need to help your client, or your family. Many of you already know my why. If not, I'm going to be sharing it today anyways to walk you through my own role and purpose so that it can give you an example of, how that goes down and how I'm able to connect with my families and why it's important to me. And how it compels me, to help others. And your role and purpose should simplify the process for your family. Underline simplify if you're taking notes. Simplify your process, because John Ziller says, confused minds don't buy. I'm not there to confuse my families with giving them a bunch of different options. We're talking about all of these different details that each different option gives to them. If they ask me questions, I'm going to do my homework and I'm going to know how to answer that. But you want to keep it simple and comfortable. Be yourself. Let them see how much you care, whether it's in a Zoom or whether you're talking to them on the phone. you know, and it's in the tone of your voice and how you're helping them. That's important. Tom Chisholm, you know, I told you I listened to all these different SoundClouds, and I was listening to one earlier in the week, and I love it. I go back to it like once a month because he's just so down to earth, and you can tell his heart is in it. You know, he says it so well that there's, you know, 4 things that, you know, 80% of what happens depends on you and how you are with your family. One of them is your confidence. The second is your competence. Third is your attitude. And then 4 is how much you care. And I'm going to add how well you listen to your families. So, you know, be yourself, because every one of you here have a big heart. I listen, I read what you all write on in your posts, how much you love families. I know you care. I've talked to many of you. I know how much you care. You know, and let's face it, you know, the families that we serve, you know, it's a very sensitive discussion. You know, it's about asking them, what does that look like when Bob doesn't come home from work? When Bob doesn't wake up? Mary doesn't come home from work. Mary doesn't wake up. How does it affect your kids? It's those, you have to be brave enough to ask those questions, because those are the questions that show how much you care. And more importantly, you're going to have to listen to them. You know, help them, ask them to help you, walk you through what that looks like. Walk me through what that looks like. So that way I can better understand on how to help you. We need to, you know, care enough to ask those tough questions. And, you know, when you begin your role and purpose, you know, we talked about your why. We also want them to know what they can expect from you in the meeting. And so a big part of that is going to be built upon assumption. I'm always assuming I'm going to help them. I don't help 100% of the people that I sit with, and I know that. But I go in there with my heart committed and assuming that they reserved my valuable time to help them. My schedule is busy. It is so busy. I haven't been able to make as many dials as I wanted to this past week, because we're all, you know, building, we're all, you know, getting ready for conference, we're doing, you know, this and that, we're learning new products, got graduations, we're moving into houses, we're all, you know, things going on around us. But here's the thing, my time is valuable. And so when I'm with a family, I'm going to assume that I'm there to help them. I'm assuming that they want me to help them. They don't want me to tell them what to do. They just want me to listen to them and understand what their needs are. And then from there, we can find a resolution that fits their needs and fits their budget. Not my budget, not my APV, it's not about me. This is about them. And, you know, let's face it, there's a lot of families, you know, that we, you know, sit down with. I know for me, you know, there's a large handful that they're at retirement age. They've never even sat down with an agent. You know, I'll ask them, you know, what made you decide to put life insurance, you know, into place today? What made you decide to put some insurance, you know, to protect your family today? Well, we've been thinking about it for years, but, you know, we just never really got around to it. But, you know, we're getting older, so we just want to check into it. You know, we just want to see how much it costs, you know, what that, do you know the difference between term and whole life? No, not really. And so, you know, for those people, I'm going to, you know, quickly give them a brief explanation of the pros and cons, you know, between a term and a whole life. A quick example, term insurance, you know, expires after a period of time. There's generally, you know, time frames. It has a termination date, and you know, it lasts from 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years. And generally I'll tell them it's better for more healthier or younger people, because they can typically get more coverage at a lesser, more affordable price. And typically whole life is better suited for most folks like myself, who are over 50 years old and who have a lot of, you know, medical challenges and have a hard time trying to get coverage. You know, and that prevents them from qualifying for a term like me. So, and then also with a whole life, you never have to worry about your payments ever increasing, because it doesn't expire. It expires when you do. It's your last stop. You don't have to worry about going through any of that anymore. Our role and purpose is a perfect time also to overcome objections up front before they come up. I'm not here to talk someone into a plan. I'm here to have a conversation with them to understand what their needs are. And then I've already done my homework based on what they shared with me. I've already pre-qualified them, through their age, their medical diagnosis, their prescriptions. And, if they tell me something's wrong with them on the phone, like, oh yeah, I had a stent put in, or I had this kind of heart thing, I'm always going to ask them, because I learned the hard way from the risk assessment people, the carriers, is I know better now to ask them, if they tell me there's anything with diabetes or heart or something, oh, have you had any complications, since then as a result, like if they have diabetes, oh, were you ever diagnosed with neuropathy? Because I know that's a game changer. With heart, stents, anything like that, I'm going to say, oh, were you ever diagnosed with congestive heart failure? So stuff like that. But what, when I'm talking to them back to about, term and whole life, this is also where I can help them understand and what to expect, what their best options are. So without telling them their options, I'm planting those seeds that will help them, especially if they don't qualify for a term. If they're like me and they've been diagnosed with 2 different cancers in the past, or if they have diabetes and neuropathy. I don't have diabetes, but if they do, then and they are diagnosed with neuropathy, I know that there's no way they're going to be approved for a term. And if you don't know that and you're brand new, you'll come to learn that, and it comes with just experience. I'm planting those seeds that will help them, especially if I know that they don't qualify for a term, and it'll help them start putting things into perspective also of what they qualify for, because they'll start putting 2 and 2 together. I want to tell you, before I learned the importance of a role and purpose, I was a hot mess. Ask Chris. I went out there on my first week out in the field. This was when we used to go out into the homes. And I came back, and I think I helped one person out of like 7 appointments or something. And I came back discouraged, like, I don't know why, this person needed it. I don't know why I wasn't able to help them. And after a while, Chris was like, Stella, and this is before we even did all kinds of Zoom stuff, he's like, why don't you, let's make a Zoom appointment, and I'm going to hear your role and purpose. And I was like, okay. And I didn't even have one. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay, well, I've been listening to all these SoundCloud audios, and they didn't have all this amazing training that we have today. We had training, but if you were like me, also trying to run out of the gate and just, I could go help people, I can figure this out. Well, I have news for you. It's, you got to do your homework. So we went on this Zoom, and I'm definitely not a salesperson. I just, but what I do have is I do love people, and I do care about them, and I have a great attitude. I know that about me. So I had all that going for me. But I didn't have a role and purpose, and there was no flow. So when I sat with Chris, he's like, okay, tell me your role and purpose. And I was like, what do you mean? He goes, like, what do you tell people? And I'm like, well, I've got this plan for you. And, I've heard, that I should ask them, what do you want this coverage to do for you? But beyond that, it was so scattered and just awful. And, I don't know how you kept from laughing, Chris, looking back, but, so Chris gave me an example of his own role and purpose. And it came down to what we talked about, is having your why. Like, why do you want to help these people? How can you connect with them? And then beyond that, he went on to tell me, go back and listen to as many SoundCloud audios that you can and find somebody that you connect with. And he said, but I'll remember, he told me, don't try to copy like a whole bunch of different examples. Pick one and stick with it. And, you know, and just measure your results, you know, make incremental changes. Don't try to shove everything all down at once, because, you know, I did that in the beginning. So, you know, because you listen, someone else did it great. Oh, wow. I want to do what Stella does. I want to do what John Paul does. I want to do what Jenny does. I want to do, you know, all of you people here, Stacy Love, Donna Bates, whoever, you know, I can keep naming all kinds of names, but, you know, all of a sudden somebody writes something really great and I'm going to do what they're going to do. Don't do that. Be yourself. And we're going to, we're running out of time. So I'm going to try to move through this. So I want to also share with you today that I brought on a special guest. And when I was thinking about role and purpose, I came to mind of somebody that I recently helped. And I just love this family. Like all of you, you know, I hear you talk about how we love our families. And when we make those connections with people who just like this couple that I sat with, that I helped, it was hard for me to not laugh almost the whole presentation, because the husband was like so funny and cracking jokes, you know, with his wife, and they were an adorable couple. And this was just a few weeks ago. And you know, you all hear me, you hear Symmetry talk about the 4 R's. You know, it's referrals, recruiting, rugrats, and retirement. So I always make sure that I practice that in every appointment. And so I mentioned with this family at the end, you know, hey, you know, you saw how I helped you today, and, you know, were you happy with my services, you know, in helping you today? I'll always ask that. And you know, and they'll tell me. And then I'll say, you know, what could I have done better? You know, and they'll tell me. And I did that with this couple, and the husband is here today. I helped them a few weeks ago, and they're just an amazing couple. And he, you know, said when we were done, he said, you know, hey, yeah, why don't you send me some information? I'm interested. So I sent it to him. And John Grubb, in a second here, buddy, if you can unmute yourself, because I want to bring you on, because I wanted to share an example specifically, you know, just being raw and honest here. If you can, one, we're going to do a couple of things. One, if you could share with everyone here, you know, what made you decide to let me help you when I met with you and Michelle. And John, if you can go ahead and just give a quick little 2-minute bio of, you know, what you used to do and all that good stuff.
2-minute bio on that. Okay. Can you hear me all right?
Okay, maybe 5 minutes. Well, you know what I mean.
Well, presently I still work for a security company in a hospital. Prior to that, I had worked in the oil field in the North Dakota area. That's kind of a quick synopsis of the last, I don't know how many years of life. I've been married to my wife for 30 years. That's scary. No. We had just refinanced our house, and we'd kind of toyed with the idea of some sort of life insurance, or because if one of us needed help, because we moved out to the coast here, and this has kind of become our final best place, as it were. We don't foresee ourselves moving. We're close to the beach. We see the ocean every day, and we just kind of decompress here. So we've been toying with this, and we saw this little pamphlet when we refinanced, and we decided to look, and lo and behold, Stella calls. And so we get on a Zoom, make an appointment for a Zoom chat, and here we go. And I think the big point was she pretty much asked us what we want. It wasn't like some others we had spoke with in the past where it was like, well, this is what we have, this is what we'll do. It was, what do you want? And she asked a couple of questions like, what happens when John doesn't come home? What happens if Michelle doesn't come home? And that was something actually we never really thought about it, even when we had thought about having life insurance or any extra insurance plans. So kind of was an eye opener there. When she put out our little diagram, and we figured out what we needed to get on with our existence as it were afterwards. And we pretty much both decided that once, if that happened, neither one of us would be staying where we're at now. We just couldn't, there's no, we're here for each other. So, and that's kind of where that went to. Like I said, the big question was, what will you do? What do you want afterwards? How are you going to subside in that short term? I mean, it's obviously life insurance isn't a replacement, but to get you through, I mean, to pay the mortgage for that time so you can pull yourself together or whatever, it's what it's for. So as far as being comedy there, I don't know. My wife's, it's hard not to make fun of her sometimes. Or myself, I guess.
That's perfect, John. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you sharing. And so if you can participate with me on this, and we're just going to make up numbers, okay? But I do, when you talked about, I went through this diagram with you. This is also known as a fire drill, financial fire drill. Cicely Ayers did a phenomenal job on SoundCloud. Again, everything I learned is on all the SoundCloud audios. And there was another one from a Justin with the Smith Brothers video. But I just, I really liked it because, you hear a lot where everyone talks about let the numbers do the heavy lifting for us. And I just also want to make mention that, the most important thing we can do is ask questions, and we'll cover some of those. But more importantly is listen, because what listening does for you is when you listen and you stay engaged, your client's going to tell you everything you need to know to find a solution to their concerns. And you build credibility when you listen. You listen and you validate what they told you. It builds trust. So the most important thing you can do is listen. I didn't always listen well. In the very beginning, I was so eager to help people. I pulled up I did my homework, had these plans together, and I couldn't wait to go out there and tell them what it's going to do for them. Oh, it's going to do this for you. It's going to do that for you, and you need this. And, and it's like, whoa, when I didn't help as many people, it was because, people don't, you hear Casey say this too. People don't want to be sold, but they love to buy. Okay. That's number one. Number two, that's not my job to tell them what they need. My job is to help guide them and figure out what they need, and then let them decide. And then, the other thing is, once we determine their need, uncovering, what that affordable premium is for them, and then showing them the value. And, but I will never give anybody a quote if they do not tell me what we're talking about is important to them, or that they see value in it. I will tell them, if you don't, because like, for example, if they don't qualify for $400,000 term, and I can't tell you, there's a large handful of people out there that I talk to that they're 69 or 70 years old, and they've got a $400,000 mortgage that's 30 years long, with a $2,000 or $2,500 monthly mortgage payment. that means they're going to be paying on that house until they're like 99 or 100 years old. So, and if they have any kind of medical issues, you know, first of all, no carrier is going to do a $400,000 term, you know, on an easy simplified one, you know, for 30 years on a term like that. There are some, you know, terms out there. I heard you can do like with Mutual of Omaha term life answers. I've never really done a fully underwritten. I think I've done it like maybe 4 times in my whole 2 years. You know, so with that being said, I know going in there, you know, remember I said I'm planting no seeds, that they need to, you know, they're going to qualify for a whole life. And I'll always try to bundle that with accidental, because, you know, accidental, they can potentially cover that mortgage up to about 500,000. And accidental death is the 3rd leading cause of death. Google it. What are the top leading causes of death in the United States? And I think I might even shared that with John and Michelle, because to me, that's huge. You know, I have $500,000 in accidental on myself because I can qualify for it. They don't ask any medical questions. And it's the 3rd leading cause of death. And I'll ask people, do you know how you're going to die? And they'll always say no, because nobody knows how we're going to die. Only God does. I don't know how I'm going to die. I don't know how either. But if I know statistically that accidental death is the 3rd leading cause of death, heck yeah, I'm gonna, you know, bundle it for myself with my family, since I don't qualify for a large term. So I'll do that also with other people. So, sorry, kind of lost my train of thought there. But let's go ahead and this will be a good time to, because we got about 13 minutes left. This will be a good time to go through that little financial fire drill. So this is what I do, you know, with my people, you know, and I wish we had more time, but I'll quickly try to run through really fast my role and presentation before I get to the financial fire drill. So if I'm sitting with you all, you know, I'm just gonna, you know, connect with you. If, you know, John, I'm sitting with you, and Michelle, you know, I'm gonna connect with you, you know, fairly quickly. It's not a long drawn out, you know, what activity did you do for the whole last year? And because our time is valuable, their time is valuable, my time is valuable, but I want to have enough time to get to know, you know, who I'm with, and I want them to know who I am. So, you know, as I make that connection and talk with them, and then from there, you know, I'll go into, sometimes there's an easy way for me to go into it, but I'll let them know, especially if they tell me, yeah, you know what, no, we haven't, you know, really sat with anybody. I'll say, okay, well, you know, part of my, you know, part of my role here, you know, is I'm a field underwriter. And, you know, that's just making sure you're not, you know, hooked up to an oxygen tank. And then, you know, sometimes we'll laugh, you know, because even though we might feel like it sometimes, but, you know, my job first is to see what you qualify for. And because that's important. And from there, you know, my job, what I do is, after you've already shared with me everything that's important to you and why you want to put some life insurance in place today, I take that information and I look for the top 3 best, most affordable plans that you qualify for, that I think are going to meet your needs, and that's going to make sense for you and your family, and that's going to fit within your budget, because budget, you know, that's important. I don't want you to be insurance poor, and I want to make sure that, you know, whatever I recommend to you today, I want to make sure it's the best recommendation for you, and that's going to be for you to choose, not me. You know, and all the families, you know, I sit with a lot of families each week. And, you know, one of the things that's in common is most of my families have some type of insurance. Maybe if it's through their work, if it's through your work, then, you know, I'll tell you, get as much as you can, because it's usually free or it doesn't cost that much. But if you're laid off, you know, or you quit your job, or, you know, you can't work, we all know that that doesn't go with you, or you retire, you know, it doesn't stay with you. So you no longer have it. And I can't tell you how many retired folks, you know, that I'm helping, because now they're 65 years old and they relied on their work insurance, but it ran out. And now they're all of a sudden needing to put something in place. And now they're 45 years older than they were when they were 20 years old. So, you know, their rating is going to be higher, and they may have gotten some medical conditions along the way. So that's going to, you know, make a difference in their rating. I'll always tell people, you know, to try to, you know, get your a safety net, life insurance in place while you can, you know, while you're healthy and while you're younger. The other thing that's in common is all my families, you know, they either have a retirement or a nest egg. Oh, and let me back up. When I'm talking about work insurance, I will tell them, here's part of the assumption is, you know, I will say, so anything I help you with today, excuse me, anything I help you with today is going to be like a safety net that you can always count on, regardless of where you work or if you're not working. You know, we're going to put something in place that's going to be something that you can always count on and that you can control. And then secondly, you know, the other thing that's in common with all my families is they usually have some kind of retirement or a nest egg already in place. But usually there's a purpose for that, you know, right? I mean, like, for example, and sometimes I'll give them my example here, you know, and I'll tell them that, you know, but when they die, all my families don't want to have to use their retirement or their nest egg, like their 401k or their savings account, or maybe they have a separate life insurance for something else. They don't want any of that to go towards the mortgage when they die, because they have a purpose in place in it. So I've named that, I've helped them name that, because most people don't. Like, and then I'll tell them, like, for example, I used to, one of my 401ks was about 140,000 that I built up for my previous career. And this is usually a good segue for me, is, you know, but, and it's true story. When I got diagnosed, you know, when I was younger, because you want to learn to tell a story, and I'm sorry, I think I'm rushing myself. So when I tell the story, I will explain to them, you know, years ago, I used to be a property manager, and before I started helping to protect families. And, you know, I used to think I was invincible. Everybody called me super mom, and, you know, all the neighborhood kids would come over to play. I mean, this is all true stuff, folks. I didn't smoke, you know, I didn't do anything to be concerned about my health. And one day, you know, I felt this tiny little bump underneath my underarm. And, you know, I thought, you know, I told my husband, oh, I should probably get that checked out. And he's like, yeah, you know, and so I finally did, but I put it off because it was so tiny. Well, you know, the doctor said that, yeah, he couldn't even find it, you know, and I felt healthy. But fast forward, you know, after a number of tests and stuff, you know, they came back, and one day they said, you know, okay, we want to do a biopsy. And then I went back in, and they started going through my blood charts, and they said, well, you know, so we identified that you have lymphoma. It's a non-Hodgkin's blood cell cancer, you know. And so from there, you know, I went through PET scans and CAT scans, and they said that I had papillary cancer. So we want to take your thyroid out too. So like all these things happened to me, and I'm healthy I'm happy to report I'm super healthy today, and I'm super grateful. But the reason I'm telling you this is because when all that happened, my medical expenses went out the roof. I couldn't work. So because I had to undergo chemo treatments. So that meant my expenses went down. So now my expenses went down, but my medical expenses and everything else went out the roof. And I lost my work, life, and health insurance. And if you ever got laid off or you stopped working somewhere, your employer usually will offer you COBRA. And I'll ask them, do you know what that is? Most people know what it is. 99%, they're like, oh yeah. And I'm like, yeah. For me, it was $1,600 a month. COBRA means that now you can maintain your health insurance, but you pay for it out of pocket. So that was like another mortgage payment on top of all my other expenses. And so what happened, so that I could maintain my mortgage payment, make sure I had food on the table, you know, all these payments, my car payment, my cell phone payment, like all these payments that I was struggling because I drained my savings. I ended up draining over $100,000 out of my 401k just so that I could make sure my mortgage was paid, I had food on the table. These are all true stories. So today, I can help you with a plan, and it depends on how old they are, but especially if they're younger, and they're healthy and they qualify for like cancer coverage or, heart attack, critical illness, those critical illness coverage. I'm going to tell them, hey, if I wish that somebody sat me down and told me these plans that would have given me a check, for 50,000 or more, or 100,000, or even 30,000, that just upon the diagnosis of a cancer, or if I had a heart attack or a stroke, that they would simply hand me a check. I don't even have to provide proof of any receipts or anything. That would have probably saved me from having to drain out of my 401k, because I was younger. And so I got penalized heavily when taxes. So, that was devastating for me from a huge financial standpoint. And I share that with the families so that they know, hey, this is what happened to me. And we've got plans in place so that you can avoid this. But it also explains to them, it sends this subliminal message that many people don't want to use their retirement or their nest egg for the mortgage, because you might have an emergency, or you might have a tree might fall on your roof, and you might have to use your money to pay for that. Life happens. There's things that happen in our life that, we end up might having to use our money in our savings or a 401k or whatever it is. Or maybe you just want to be able to use that for your retirement years and live comfortably. So the purpose of having some type of life insurance or critical care coverage is so that you can not have to worry about touching that money. Now you have a safety net that is going to take care of you and your family. And that's usually one of the good segues. There's different segues that I'll have, but you just heard me explain my why. And I do also share with them about, also in terms of having just coverage, my when I was younger, my dad was walking up the sidewalk and he fell. And my brother ran out there to try to give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to help him breathe, and couldn't. And none of us knew that my dad had a massive heart attack. Like, none of us could help him. That was devastating. My mom and dad were married forever. They never married anybody else. They were together forever. And, I watched all that unfold with my mom. And, it was probably a good 3 years before she could pull herself together. We all, stepped in and helped her. But my dad had a policy in place that helped her stay in the house that she's in. That was the house that, I grew up in as a teenager. So that was huge for me to understand the value of having something in place, because my mom stopped working. She essentially was, the head of the household that, got my dad's lunches prepared, all of our kids' lunches prepared, cleaned the house, took care of, things at home, laundry. So she wasn't out there as a career lady working. So she had no other income to fall back on except, Social Security, but I don't think she qualified for it yet because my dad was younger. So that's my why. And that's the kind of why that you want to put into your role in presentation. The other things and overcoming objections that I'll try to quickly cover, because I know we're at the top of the hour, is, explaining to them that, all my families, they don't need as much coverage as they think they do. And I can show you how we can take care of that. And a lot of that I just covered with you, in terms of, the whole life and accidental. And Chris, I know it's 9 o'clock. Do you want me to go through that little financial fire drill real quick, or do you want me to save it for another time? I'm really sorry. My role in presentations can go a little long, especially if I'm trying to explain to everyone, explaining, methodically, why it's important.
No, take your time. Go ahead and share. I think it's going to be beneficial for everybody.
Okay, and those of you that need to hop off because you've got appointments, I totally understand. But those of you that want to stick around, I won't make it too long. I'll walk you through. So I will, after I talk to them about how, most people don't need as much as they think they need. Here's is where I'm going to now, go into what John called the diagram, and what we'll call the financial fire drill. And I'll let them know, so you know what, I want to complete a quick little exercise with you to help you see from like a bird's eye, view, that, you can make a determination on, what a best recommendation would be for you. And, you'll be able to use my experience and my expertise and identify that for yourselves. Okay. And they'll say, okay. And I'll tell them over Zoom, I'll say, okay, so do you have a piece of paper and a pen there? And they'll say, yeah. Or they'll say, no, let me go grab one. So they'll go grab one. And once they, I'll say, okay, now on your piece of paper, I want you to just draw a circle. And they'll draw a circle. And I'll say, all this will make sense to you in a moment. And now go ahead and on the outside of the circle, draw two antennas, one going out of the top left and one out of the top right. And on the top left antenna, do me a favor and draw a stick man. And on the upper right-hand side, draw a stick woman. And I'll show it to them. I'll say, see, just like this. It's a circle, and you got two like antenna lines sticking out, and then the upper left-hand corner stick man, and then the upper right-hand corner stick woman. And they'll say, okay. And I'll say now, and I'll go through reviewing their mortgage. And I'll say, okay, so, and John, I can do this because of the sake of time, but I'm just gonna, pretend like, use you as an example, okay? And I'll say, I'm making up numbers here, you guys. So John, your mortgage is about, 300,000, and that's on a 30-year, and your mortgage payment is about $1,000. Is that correct? And they'll be, like, yeah, that sounds right. Okay. And so now we know we want to protect that, those mortgage payments. We're here to protect your mortgage, right? Yes. Okay. So let me ask you this, because we're just really looking at, your dire needs. Okay. So if you were to add up all your other monthly expenses, just like, just the bottom line expenses, the I have to make sure this gets paid each month expenses, like your car payment, maybe car insurance, your internet, your cable, any medical expenses, any, your utilities, water, sewer, garbage. We don't need exact numbers. I just, just kind of ballpark. And then your food. How much do you spend on food? If you don't know how much you spend each month, how much is it a week? Do you spend like $100 a week? And a lot, and there's probably 30% of the families I sit with, they roll it out. They're like, oh yeah, it's probably about $1,500. We were just talking about that when we moved to our new house and we did a budget, blah, blah, blah. And other people may not know, and I'll go through it line by line. They'll start talking to me. They'll start saying, well, our car payments, 200, and and they'll start talking about things out loud. And as they're telling me, I'm writing it down, and then so I'll come back with, okay, so if I heard you correctly, I'm validating them because I'm listening, because this is about them, not me. And I'll say, so I heard you say your car payment's 200. Your car insurance is about 200. Sounds like you guys spend about 400 on food, and I'll go through the whole list and reiterate. And I'll say, so it sounds like you spend about an additional 1,500 on just like the bottom line have to. Does that sound right? And they'll say, yeah, that sounds right. Okay, so let's go ahead and add that 1,500 to your $1,000, because that's how much it costs you to run that household at a minimum that you have to get through each month. I mean, I know you're going to have other expenses that come up, like, got to replace the tires. Maybe the water heater goes out. We're not counting those because those are one-offs. We just want to know the bottom line have to each month. And they'll tell me it's 2,500. So I'll say, okay, so let's go ahead and in the middle of your circle, and I'll do this, go ahead and write 2,500. And they'll write it down. I'll say, okay, so now, so, we talked about, when I got sick and how my income stopped coming in, but those expenses didn't go away. Well, what if something like that happened to you, John? or worse yet, you got fully taken out of the game, you know, and you didn't come home. How much income are we losing coming into the house? Like, what is your monthly net income? And they'll think about it, and he might say, oh, it's about 3,000. And I'll say, okay, 3,000. And sometimes they'll tell me things like, oh, well, I get 1,000 from the VA, and I get 1,000 from Social Security. I got 500 from a rental, and I'm writing that down as they're telling me. And I'll say, okay, so it sounds like, you know, there's a total of 2,500, but in this case, I'll say 3,000. So I write it down, and I'll say, okay, now on your line, John, let's write down 3,000. And then I'll say, okay, now Michelle, if the same happened to you, what are we looking at? You know, that we're losing coming in a household. And she'll say, oh, it's about 3,000. I'll say, okay, so let's go ahead and write down 3,000 on your line. So we can agree that you have 3,000 coming in on each of you and 2,500 going out approximately each month. So it's about 6,000 total coming in each month for both of you. Is that correct? And then you'll be like, yeah. And say, okay, all right. So now here's a bigger question for you. If John doesn't come home, I'll put a line through that 3,000. Okay, and we're gonna cross him off. Sorry, John, when he's no longer in a game, and now we crossed out that income. It's no longer coming in. You know, I see that, you know, you've got enough to cover the bare minimum, but we all know, you know, when you lose somebody, you're not gonna go back to work the next day. I mean, you're just not. You know, there's time to grieve. You know, my mom's case, it was like 3 years. But on an average, you know, for people to like take time off work, it's anywhere from 6 months to a year. And I'll ask them, have you ever lost anybody? Have you ever seen anybody, you know, any of your friends or family, what that looked like? Because I want them to be in that moment, to understand that process. And they'll, you know, someone might say, oh yeah, you know, we just lost my so-and-so, and yeah, you know, and yeah, I understand that. Right. You know, because a lot of people will be like, oh, well, I'll just get another job. It's like, no, you're not. Like, that's stupid. I'm sorry. I won't tell them that, but you know, they're not going to go run back to work. And here's the other thing I'll mention is that, you know, bereavement pay, if we all remember from our employer, it's like, what, 3 days? Like, that is not enough time to grieve. 3 days. So you're probably going to need to take off like 6 months at a minimum. You know, for most people, sometimes it's a year. And then, so we're not going to see that income coming in for you, Michelle, for that 6 months or a year. Would you agree? And usually they'll agree, because they have to stop and think about, yeah, okay, I guess if that person's not here, I'm probably not going to rush back into work. I'm probably, you know, and you need time to figure things out. What are you going to do? And then I'll ask them, what help walk me through that? Like, how long, honestly, would you probably stay in that house there without John? And she'll tell me. She'll say, well, you know, all my family's elsewhere, and John's my everything. Like, I don't like living a day without him. So, you know, I can't stay in this house. It's too much for me. I mean, that's what it boils down to. And that's pretty much what John and Michelle told me in their own funny, cute way. But, you know, it's like they hang out together. They look forward to their days off together. They do everything together. And when that other person isn't there, you know, that's really hard for that person. And so, you know, I'll say, you know, how long would you want to stay in that house then? And she'll tell me, you know, I'm not going to stay in this house. I'm going to sell it. I wouldn't stay here. So I'm like, okay, so you need time to sell the house. Is that right? Yeah. And, you know, yes, the market's great today. I hear people talk about that all the time, but you know what? If any of you know real estate, does it just always stay like this? No. Real estate goes up and down. I used to be a property manager. I'm very well versed in this, and it doesn't take a person to be a property manager to know that houses aren't always going to sell on a dime like they are today. They're just not. Okay. There's going to be a fallout. Bubble's going to burst at some point. We don't know when that is. I don't have a magic ball, but with that being said, if that happens during a time where it's going to not sell right away, would you agree that you would need some time? And then I'm also going to ask them, you know, I'm going to talk about that, you know, because these are things that I saw unfold on my end that people don't think about. You know, you've got to go through your loved one's belongings. That's painful. Deciding what to keep, what to give away, who's going to get what. And then, you know, if you're going to sell the house, now you've got to clean everything out. You've got to, you know, touch up paint. It takes time. All of this takes time. And let me tell you, when somebody dies, you're not going to go out there and put a for sale sign on your front yard that next day. You are going to just need to just absorb it. You're going to need to just, okay, what do I do? And, you know, and when you go sit at that funeral, you're not going to want to be thinking about all of that. You're going to be sitting there trying to figure out, what do I do next? And that's what happens with people. And, you know, those are the kind of conversations that we have, because that's what they need to think about. And so, you know, and so Michelle will tell me, you know what, I'm not going to say, yeah, I'd probably need at least a good year. So now I can tell them, okay, so, you know, and then I'll ask them, all right, what is your other backup plan? Like, you know, your income's not coming in now. We've got these expenses, you know, about $2,500 a month. Do you have a backup plan? Like, I know that none of my families want to use their 401k. None of them want to use, you know, their retirement, their savings, you know, but if you had to use it, like, what does that look like for you? And they'll tell me. Sometimes it might be like, well, yeah, I've got a $200,000 401k, you know, and they'll acknowledge that, you know, if they try to take money out of it earlier, it's going to, you know, they'll be penalized with taxes. So they don't want to use it. Plus they want to use that to live off of. And then sometimes they'll want to, they'll tell me that, you know, oh, yeah, I've got about, you know, 30,000 in savings. But again, most of my families don't want to have to use that towards the mortgage. And so, because we've already, you know, talked about that. So in this case, you know, I can look at it and say, okay, so we're looking at, we just really, it sounds like if you're going, and I'm going to validate, and because I've been listening, and I'm going to reiterate, it sounds like, Michelle, really, you know, you've got a good job as a nurse and you're going to go back to work probably, you know, but you know, a year would be good for you to be able to have something in place to not have to worry about those expenses. Is that right? And she's going to say, yeah. And I'll say, okay, so, you know, here's what I would recommend, but now I'm going to show you the options, and you tell me what works best for you, and you let me know what's in your budget. And, you know, because we can always modify this. Okay. So if it doesn't work out for you for any reason, or you want to go higher or you want to go lower, you let me know, because I work for you. Okay. And they'll say, okay. So we identify $2,500 a month in expenses. So if we take that 2,500 and times that by 6 months, that's only $15,000, you know, and we're talking about a whole life, because we're talking about those of us that are over 50. So now $15,000 is what the least recommendation that I will recommend, because that's, you know, 6 months worth of those house expenses. But if we took it for a year, to cover it for a year, that's 12 times 2,500. And now that's 30,000 in a whole life. So now, you know, now I'm walking them through seeing the value in what that 15,000 or that 30,000 is going to do for them. That's one piece of the plan that I've already put together for my family. The other piece of the plan, I'm going to say, you know, I'm going to bring back up. Remember, okay, great. You know, so, and now, and I'll have them write it down. Sorry, I'm a little scattered. I'll have them write it down. So 15,000, go ahead and write that down, Michelle and John. 15,000 is going to give you about 6 months of house expenses. That's 6 months of valuable time. Okay. Does that make sense? And I'm always going to ask them, does that make sense? And they'll, you know, and they're always going to say, yeah, you know, I like that. And I'll say, and then 30,000 is going to give you a year of time for expenses. And does that make sense? Yes. Okay. remember we talked about, what we qualify for and accidental and all of that. So now I want to ring them in to understanding how they can see the value and how it's going to benefit them to potentially additionally cover the whole mortgage if they die of an accident. And I'm also prepping them on, because maybe they don't qualify for a term, for $300,000 term. Maybe they do, but maybe that's going to just cost too much for 30 years, on a 55-year-old. Maybe the carrier won't do a 30-year till 85 years old. They'll cut it off at 70 typically, right? And I don't want to leave them vulnerable. I'll tell them this, it's true. I don't want them to get a 15-year term to cover the whole mortgage if they've got a 30-year term, and that's going to leave them vulnerable those remaining 15 years, right? So let's find something that's going to make sure we take care of that whole mortgage, and if that's what's important to you. And most people will tell me, yes, that's important to me, Stella. Is it important to you that we find you a plan also that you don't have to worry about your payments increasing in 15 years when it expires? Yes, that's important to me, Stella. Okay, all right. So now I've validated and I've got them telling me why it's important to them. If I don't have that and they start giving me all this, what do you call that? Defensive, feedback on like, well, I've got this, I've got 50,000 in the bank, I've got this, I've got that. And I'm like, okay, so I'm going to validate that. I'm going to say, okay, so I hear you telling me, John, that this is something you don't need. That we don't need a safety net in place, that you're willing to rely on that 30,000 in your bank account. I mean, even if you accidentally had an emergency like I did and had to use it, a family member got sick, or it's too easy to reach in the bank account, pull that out and use it for an emergency. So you're telling me you're willing to risk that and you don't need this kind of coverage. And 1% or 2% of my people will be like, yeah, I've got enough money in the bank. And I'm like, okay, you know what? It sounds like then, I'll save us both time. There's no reason for us to move forward in going over the quotes because you just told me you don't need it. And, and they might tell me, yeah, okay, thanks. I appreciate your time. And I'm going to tell them, I'm going to, let them know that I thank them for their time. And a lot of times they'll tell me, you know what? We thank you so much for helping us put that in perspective, even if I didn't help them. But more oftentimes than not, they'll say, oh no, you know what? No, I have that money there, but I'd still like to know how much it is. And I'll be like, but why? You just told me you don't need it. Like, why, why waste your time, on going through that? And they're gonna, and sometimes every once in a while they'll say, well, and they'll hem-haw and they'll look at each other and they'll say, well, and because the wife wants it. It's unfortunate. Sometimes the man's the breadwinner and the wife wants it desperately because she knows that, oh my gosh, please don't leave me, stranded. And he's like the one like, we're okay, and so, and I'll say, I'll ask them. It's a tough question, but I'll look at the wife and I'll say, is that what you want, Mary? And she might say, no, but if he says that that's what we need to do, that we're okay, then then I guess we're okay. And I always feel bad for them, and I'll ask him, how does that make you feel to know that she wants some safety net, but I mean, is that what you want? And a lot of times they'll come around and they'll say, well, how much is 6 months going to cost me, Stella? And I'll be like, okay, well, but let me ask you before I tell you, because again, I want to make sure that, we're making, that I've got a lot of families to help. And I want to make sure, if I invest this time with you, that I can, I can help you. So are you telling me that, you find 6 months of value to you, and then I'm going on that one situation I'm just telling you about. And he'll say, yeah, I guess. And believe it or not, there are people that I've helped and, that they're reluctant, and it's not against me. I don't take it personal. It's just that they can't understand, they can't comprehend how it's going to really impact them, and how, that they might have to use that 30,000 in the bank because a tree fell on their roof, or all these things in life happened, and they have to use that money. So now he's like, all right, I see your point. I've had people say that. So don't be afraid to ask those tough questions. But back to our little example with Michelle and John, is now I'm back to, those whole life plans, right? And I'm saying that, I've explained that 15,000 is going to buy her 6 months in house expenses when John's not there. 30,000 is going to give her a year of expenses. She doesn't have to worry about things. So would you like to potentially, pay that house off if John died of an accident though? Because remember, we talked about that's like the third leading cause of death. And here's good news. We can add that in and it's really cheap. And they don't ask us any medical questions. I love that most of all because I hate medical questions. So, and they understand why. So they're like, well, yeah, how much is that? And I'll say, okay, so this is what I put together for you. And I will usually put a plan together where it includes about, so also I'll look up, before I usually do it based on the mortgage amount plus accidental. Okay. So maybe the mortgage amount, we said it was $1,000. So $1,000 times, 12 is 12,000. So I may have one example that shows $12,000 in a whole life policy. And then if their mortgage was 300,000, I'm going to bundle that with 300,000 of accidental death insurance from Mutual of Omaha because it's cheap. And hey, if they died of an accident, I mean, how comforting is that to know that now you could potentially pay that everything off with the accidental death, right? So this plan A costs, for example, I don't know, $250 or $350. And then, and that covers up to 3 years of mortgage payments and then plan B is going to be like, $200 a month. And that covers like pretend 2 years of mortgage or house expenses plus accidental. And then the third plan, I always like to try to just go a hair under $100 a month. And the reason is because people are on budgets and, and those of us over 50 years old, I don't know, but there's something about under 100 we can swallow. And so I like to, leave that open for them. And then I always tell them that when I'm showing them the plan that, and I'll that's where I'll go to my presentation on the PowerPoint screen. And I'll show them 3 options and I will reiterate to them that it'll talk about, it'll say, if you plan A pays Michelle $320,000, if you died of an accident, if not, it gives her 3 years of mortgage payments. And I'll write in there, it gives her time, and I'll put time in capital letters because I don't think people really understand the value of time. So it gives her time to be able to figure out what she's going to do when you're not there. Time to grieve, time to sell the house, etc. And then I'll put the amount. It costs this much per month. Maybe it's $300 a month, $350. And then option 2, like I just talked about. And I'll explain those. And then from there, once they've already told me why they need it and why they found the value in it, then I ask them, I'll show it to them and I'll say, okay, out of these 3, which one of these holds the most value to you? And I shut up, just like I just did right now. And I don't talk because people need time to think. And if I break their train of thought, now I have, I'm not of good service to them. And they always say the first person to talk loses. And it's true in that case. So I don't say anything. And sometimes people, they'll talk amongst themselves, they'll pull out the calculator and, and I'm just sitting there like, and I'll check my phone, I'll check my text, because they're just talking. It's like if you were in a home, but you're not, you're over Zoom. And sometimes I'll even, say, and which is sometimes it's true. I'll say, hey, do you mind my dog? I'm going to take him out to go to the bathroom. I'll be right back. Is that okay? He's kind of scratching at the door. And sometimes that's true. And sometimes it's not, but it just gives them time to talk amongst themselves. And then I'll come back and I'll say, which plan did you like the best? And they'll tell me, they'll say, you know what, we really like plan number 1, Stella, but so we want to make sure we cover that whole mortgage if it's, if John dies of an accident. but it's kind of high for us. So, can you put together, what does it look like if we did, we paid off the house with the accidental, but we only did like a year of mortgage payments. Can you tell us what that looks like? And I'll be like, yeah, here, I'll show you. And I'll share, and I'm sharing my screen. I'll share my screen. I'll go into the Mutual Omaha sales quote, where it shows, and I'll pull it up and I'll show them so they can see, and I let them choose. And then from there, they'll tell me, okay, we like that one. I do not ask them, okay, would you like to apply? Because they've already told me. So now I'm just going to, okay, so let's go ahead and we're going to go through the application that has all the medical questions. So I'm going to ask all the medical questions first. We'll go through that one, and I'm going to American Amicable, whatever carrier it is, and I'm opening it up and I'm typing in my state, their name, and then I just go through that process. And then when I'm done, I'll ask them, like I said in the beginning, were you happy with my services today? What could I have done better? Because I want to know. And that's pretty much my role in presentation. Sorry, I took a long time, but so thank you for those of you that stayed on. That was a big game changer for me to figure out in the very beginning, because I didn't have a role and purpose in place. And you will find a lot of them on SoundCloud. But just remember to be yourself, and don't try to copy like 10 different people, because you'll be scattered and all over the place, and you will not be of any service to your families.
All right, excellent. Well, hopefully everybody was paying close attention, taking notes, because you've got a lot of valuable tools to use in your process, and stuff that you can go plug in from one of the top performers on the team. Somebody's at the top of the leaderboards every week. So hopefully you recognize the value in that and took notes. So thank you, Stella, for sharing that, and so great to have you on the team and being willing and able to share with the team your process. So guys, we went a little over time, but it was well worth it. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up the call and let everybody get on with their day. And let's go out and help some families take this and apply it and put it into action in your sales process. So, all right, guys, have a great day.